There are 5 elements that any colonial power has to perpetrate in order to control the indigenous society. And first and foremost is to take the land. Second is to control the natural resources, particularly access to food and water. The third is to usurp the governance structure of the indigenous society, so taking the sovereignty. The third, or the fourth element is to delegitimize thought, language, spirituality, education, healing, and finally, they have to take the children, because taking the children so disrupts the social fabric of the society that it will contribute to the society breaking down itself. And if we buy into that colonial process, we actually help the oppressor by oppressing ourselves. And I was saying that the path out of that is a path of decolonization that starts with a decision to adhere to your own reality, not let somebody else define your reality for you.
We built an incredible thing until the Roman Catholic Church came up. And we found, when we were gathering one day, my parents went there. There was a man that was dressed in a black robe, was whipping my people with a stick, trying to convert them from who they are to what they want them to be. That was hard. My people didn't understand because they couldn't speak the language of English, French. They had no knowledge of it, but they were beaten. So my dad went up to that black person in that black outfit, took that stick away and smashed it, put it in the fire, and he said, "Go." Praise that. Our people had to be healed themselves, and then they had to gather to talk about that new change that's coming. It was hard.
We forget about our people that's locked up. We forget about our people that are shut in. So in my journey into death row, there was 48 Indians on death row. I got to meet with all the people up there. And you know one thing they all had in common? Is they all had a family somewhere. And they happened to be the most spiritual people I've ever met in my whole life. Them people on death row. And they all prayed. They all prayed. So what I'm saying is I prayed with the Italian mafia, the Mexican mafia, the Hells Angels. They're all on death row. I got to pray with them. Hear their stories, how they're praying in there for us out here. So that's part of the reconciliation work that I do. And having this ride across, reconciling with each other.
They rose up to defend themselves, starving to death, to protect their land, their way of life, and their people. Was it wrong to defend ourselves? That's the question.
Within weeks, 500 whites, settlers, soldiers, and government agents were dead, along with a smaller but unknown number of Indians.
There were pretty horrendous deeds done on both parts. I mean, some immigrant from Germany who wasn't privy to the signing of the Traverse des Sioux Treaty was probably pretty shocked to see his wife's, womb cut open, a baby taken out and brained against a tree, just as later when New Ulm people attacked the Indians and killed a woman's child in front of her. There's no heroes here. It was an ugly situation.
When I think about Abraham Lincoln, that's hard to swallow because he freed the slaves, but yet really succumbed to pressure from the people to hang. There were supposed to be over 300 that were supposed to be executed, but he reduced it to 38.
We say this is a spiritual ride. We're going to be the first ones to ask for forgiveness. We want to say our apologies as the natives. We want to step up and say, hey, we apologize. So we're going to be the first ones to forgive what happened when they hung our ancestors in 1862. We're going to be the first ones to forgive. This country was birthed on violence. So that's why I say every one of us in this room has some form of PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. Back when, it was called nostalgia, battle fatigue. Civil War is called nostalgia. World War I and II is called battle fatigue. So we carried that, and that's what the film district is, the historical stuff. So we go from, my great-grandparents didn't have a voice. My grandma and grandpa didn't have a voice. My dad and mother were the silent generation because somebody put a gun to my great-grandparents' head and said, this is what church you're going to. This is what school you're going to. And this is how you heathens are going to believe. So my daddy and my mama, they were the silent generation, and they felt like this. I'm going to the Catholic boarding school. I'm going to the Episcopal boarding school. I'm going to this school. So in our generation, all of us here, we have a voice. And if we don't speak for Mother Earth, in whatever way that you deem is right, however you feel is right, saving water, getting out writing in the newspaper, joining these groups. It's us. We're the elders.
Everything about us was the makeup of this region. When they flooded Celilo Falls in 1957, it was with full intent to annihilate a people, to exterminate a people, to terminate us from this land and our connection through our songs, through our ways of being and knowing, that our people have carried in communion with this land, understanding and knowing. I walked the long path as an Indian of determination, and it created a bitterness in my heart. And I had to lay that down. To become one with all of you, as we all share this mother, this earth. to lay down my identity of being an Indian under termination and extermination in this hour as the United States government pursues me, my sister, my brother, the few of us who are left of the original people of this Lalawayan. I don't know my language. I know bits and pieces of my dad's language. I know bits and pieces of even the Sioux language. I pick up on languages everywhere I go. Take bits and pieces of my Nez Perce. Yes, Nez Perce, not Nez Perce. It takes a lot to share our wisdom and our hearts, to bare our souls to a people who have turned a blind eye to genocide. If we're here to talk about anything, that's what it is. The acknowledgement, the hour of acknowledgement. You see, because the Word of God says to heal the land, to heal the people, you have to heal the land. That's our connection. That's what we have as a people. That's what our ancestors and our elders have helped us to maintain all these years. I'm 50-some years old, and the same thing that they put my grandmothers through is still happening to me. My children have been absorbed by a system. My grandchildren are taken for money by a system that would give out mental health money because we're just mental now. Not diagnosed with post-traumatic stress behind the trauma of still being under genocide. Standing Rock only highlighted those things that have been happening to our territories and our land and our people and our children, our elders. Standing Rock only brought to the forefront the suffering of our people. When our non-Indian sisters and brothers came out to stand by our side, I spent all winter out there. Blizzard after blizzard after blizzard, but we stood. Not in protest. Every morning, wake up. Before the sun comes up, have water ceremony. Sing. Take water down to the river. The hour of acknowledgement of what's been done to our people as the first people needs to be brought to the forefront and needs to be acknowledged. And beyond an apology, things need to change.
Colonization, that's a very interesting concept that was invented a long time ago. And my people have been oppressed and suppressed and for many generations, just like most indigenous peoples around the world, where 80% of our population was wiped out in 50 years. And we still have stories about those times and the intergenerational trauma that it creates. And there is no people in the world that isn't traumatized now. And the first traumas occurred in well, who knows? But you know, you just to list wars, for example, in Europe, you had the Crusades and the wars between the different nations and the bubonic plague and the potato famine and the Inquisition. I mean, all these things. And so what happened, according to our elders, is that it's like creating a big stomach inside of yourself, which always wants to be fed but can never be fed. And this big stomach is addiction. And addiction to whatever it is, it's attachment to things. The Hopi Maori say, you know, let go of the sides of the riverbank, move to the center, and find those who've done the same and celebrate. What letting go of the sides of the riverbank means? Letting go of all attachments. And I mean all attachments. And move to the center means moving to your proverbial center and the center of the river of life because it knows where it's going. We don't. And find those who have done the same and celebrate. We celebrate because those who have done the same have had the courage to let go of the sides of the riverbank.
One of the things that came up to me this morning were some memories of myself as a young girl. I lived with my grandparents in Indiana, and I remember them speaking about those Indians as if they were bad people, savage people. And then I remember another early memory. I love to read, and I love the library, and I went to the library and there was a book, and it was about Navajo people, and there was a picture of this woman weaving a beautiful rug, and I thought, whoa, what is this? This is so beautiful, but it seemed so far away from me and nothing to do with my life at all. And then I grew up and I went many places. One of the things that happened to me is I moved to Minneapolis, Minnesota. And Alberta spoke yesterday and said she remembers when it was hard for her to speak in a group of white people. And she spoke of the American Indian movement. And actually, I lived in a neighborhood where there were many people living who were part of the American Indian movement. And we were very sympathetic to them. I used to see Dennis Banks in the grocery store, and my husband would go, that's Dennis Banks over there. I'd go, wow. But I was so shy because so much of what I learned was like this, you know, these are other, these are not us, and so it's taken me quite a while to get to a circle like this one. And it's taken me a little while to realize the depth of my gratitude that now we are speaking together, we are coming together, we are not other to each other anymore. We are all human beings who love our Mother Earth and who want to do right for her and who wish for reconciliation and have deep sorrow for the sorrows of the past. I thank you all who have come here today to hear this, to say this, and to be together in this. Thank you.
That's what this colonization and the experience and memory of it has taught us. Native peoples, I come from a people that doesn't show or behave or think anything that is in hatred or anger. I was taught that as a child. When you get into hatred or anger, you not only contribute to your destruction, but you contribute to the destruction of your people. And that is so true. And so you think about the United States, we've got countless numbers of wars. World War I, war just in the last century, World War I, World War II, Korean War, Vietnam War, Gulf War. Then we had the Civil War, the Mexican-American War, you name it. And the people who survived those wars, I mean, in the Civil War, for example, 700,000 Americans killed in horrible ways, and millions more wounded. And they became survivors, and they took to addictive behaviors because they didn't want to remember, think, smell, or dream of, or anything that would remind them of the horrors that they've been through. And they pass then they take to addictive behaviors. My definition of addictive behavior is nothing but a strategy to escape the present moment. And when we do that, we automatically separate from our hearts. It's a survival strategy, but not a very good one. We separate from our hearts. And so the world is replete with traumas of colonization. and the atrocities that are numerous around the world historically. And so there's no one untouched, no human being untouched by some kind of historical trauma or real trauma that they experienced during their lives. That these survivors of these wars became parents, and they passed along their behaviors to the younger generation until it's here with us today.